In today's video, we'll share with you 3 cases that have captivated audiences for years. A Medford woman found dead in a recycling bin, the 1996 murder case solved by a Rolex, and the abduction of Jacob Wesseling. These cases challenged investigators, the legal system, and even the public's perceptions of justice. But after years of investigation, the cases are now finally resolved. So, without further ado, let's dive into these 3 solved cases and suspicious initial rulings. We'll begin with the woman who was found dead in a Medford recycling bin. Accidents can happen any day, any time, but sometimes it can be very confusing to declare if an incident should be deemed an accident or murder. Our first story is one of a kind when a good-natured mother of 2 went missing and found dead the next day. And 9 months later, authorities ruled the death was accidental. Barbara Hovey-Novaes, a 61-year-old mother of 2 living in Medford, Massachusetts. She had 2 grown-up children, Alan Novaes, 22, who was still living with her, and Marina Novaes, 26, living separately. Barbara was married to Fernando Novaes, 56, but they got separated and she was getting a divorce from her husband. Neighbors, family, and friends remembered her as an incredibly kind woman. Barbara was getting a divorce from Novaes, but apparently Novaes didn't want to proceed. The 2 had a serious argument on May 6th, the same month Barbara died. Fearing from her husband, Barbara locked herself in her room. A few days later, on May 9th, she filed a restraining order against her husband. However, she withdrew it on May 17th when Novaes agreed to proceed with the divorce. No such incident between the couple was reported between the day she withdrew the restraining order and the day she died. Things were finally becoming normal for her. On May 22nd, 2022, her son Alan claimed to see her at 4:30 p.m. That was the last time he saw his mother alive. When she wasn't around for the rest of the day, he naturally assumed that the mother must have gone out for her nails job. He didn't witness anything suspicious the whole day. But when her mother didn't return, he started to become worried. He went out to look for her and found the front door open, keys, purse, and phone inside the house and the car outside. He then had to report the matter. He called the authorities at 6:44 a.m. on May 23, 2022 and reported everything he knew. The police arrived at the location and started their hunt for the missing mother of the 2. Sadly, the police couldn't find the lady alive, but at 8:30 a.m. police found the dead body of Barbara Novaes in the recycling bin. Questions started arising, but there was no clue of how she died and reached the bin. The investigating officers tried gathering evidence and inquired family, friends, and neighbors, but couldn't find anything. After 9 months of investigation, the medical examiner declared that Barbara Novaes' death was accidental, caused by positional asphyxia. Her family is thankful to the authorities for their verdict, but not satisfied. The department has also assured that they'll reopen the case if new evidence is found. Now for the 1996 murder case solved by a Rolex. July 28, 1996. 2 men went fishing in South England, but little did they know they were about to become part of some strange events. The 2 fishermen caught a dead body and instantly informed the Coast Guards. The body was badly decomposed. It had been in the ocean for some time. The body was transported to the medical examiner's office in Devon. The police found nothing on him except for a Rolex oyster and a tattoo. Thanks to the watchmakers, the investigating officers got the wearer's name. The dead man was Ronald Joseph Platt. The medical reports also supported that, and based on the initial findings, it seemed to be a simple case of drowning. From the initial discovery, police discovered that Platt's last known address was in Essex, hundreds of miles from where his body was found. The police visited the address to help with the case and found the property vacant. After contacting the landlord, the investigating officer received a reference letter with a forwarding address and contact number of David Davies. The detective set up a meeting with Davies and discussed the relationship between Platt and Davies. Davies explained the 2 had been friends for several years. He also told the officer that he hadn't seen Platt in over 3 months. The last time they met, he loaned him money to start an electrical business. Having given all the information he could, the investigating officer declared it to be an unfortunate case of drowning. A few days later, the officer again tried contacting Davies, but he wasn't available, so the officer paid him a visit in Devon. Davies was living in a rural area with only 4 houses. He knocked on the first door and inquired about Davies, but he was surprised to learn that there never was a Mr. Davies, but Mr. Platt. This opened up a new door. The detective inquired all about Platt and learned that he was living with his young wife and 2 little children. He also learned that Platt and his family had often vacationed in Devon as they had a yacht down there. The detective reviewed the case and started getting new clues. He learned that the fisherman also found an anchor along the body. The officer also contacted Platt's brother, who told about his ex-partner, Elaine Boyers. The two lived for 13 years, until they separated in Canada. Boyers was a receptionist at a fine arts auctioneer in Harrogate, England. Boyers told everything about Davies, from how the two found him and how helpful he was. She also told when and how she and Platt got separated and how unhappy Davies was when he learned that Platt was about to move back to England for now enjoying a good financial life. She also told the officer how Davies used the couple to do his business. The case opened another chapter when the detective met Davies' ex-wife. She revealed how and why they separated and how Davies escaped from Harrogate to Devon with his daughter. Investigating even further, it was revealed that Davies' real name was Albert Johnson Walker, but he introduced Boyers and Platt as David Davies, and after the death of Platt, Davies stole his identity. After a long effort, the investigating officer finally decoded the case and caught the murderer. Walker's trial began in 1998. Walker admitted to fraud and to other crimes but denied killing Platt. The jury saw through the lies and took just 2 hours to find him guilty. He was sentenced to 15 years to life in 2005. He filed an application for parole but was denied. He was also denied his request to go to Vancouver Island unaccompanied for a personal development program. It's unlikely he will ever taste freedom again. The abduction of Jacob Wesseling. The second case is another case of abduction and murder, a true heartbreaking series of events. The case remained unsolved for nearly 27 years. On the night of October 22, 1989, 11-year-old Jacob Wesseling was abducted in St. Joseph, Minnesota, while riding his bicycle home from a convenience store with his brother and a friend. On the way, they were stopped by a masked man with a gun, who demanded that they lay face down on the ground and then asked each of them their ages. After ordering Jacob to get into his car, the abductor fled the scene with Jacob leaving his brother and friend behind. The other two ran to a nearby house for help, but by the time they returned, the car and Jacob were gone. The abduction of Jacob Wesseling triggered a massive investigation involving the FBI and multiple law enforcement agencies. Thousands of leads were pursued, but no solid evidence was ever found. The case received national attention and Jacob's image was featured on missing child posters and milk cartons. The Wesseling family and the community never gave up hope of finding Jacob, and his parents became advocates for missing children. 9 months before Jacob's abduction, the town witnessed another similar case when an unknown adult man kidnapped a 12-year-old boy, sexually assaulted him, and physically threatened him. The investigators could not find any new leads and believed that the kidnapper had killed that boy and left the town. In 2015, over 25 years after Jacob's abduction, a man named Danny Heinrich was arrested and charged with possession of child pornography. Heinrich was a long-time suspect in the case, and his DNA was found on Jacob's sweatshirt that was recovered from the abduction site shortly after Jacob's disappearance. Heinrich confessed to abducting, sexually assaulting, and killing Jacob, leading authorities to his remains in a nearby farm field. In 2016, Danny Heinrich pleaded guilty to federal child pornography charges in exchange for a sentence of 20 years in prison. He admitted to kidnapping and killing Jacob but could not be charged with the murder due to the statute of limitations in Minnesota. Plea deal allowed for some closure for the Wesseling family and the community, but also raised questions about the justice system and the statute of limitations. Jacob Wesseling's abduction and murder led to changes in child protection laws and the establishment of the Jacob Wesseling Resource Center, a national organization that provides education and support for the prevention of child exploitation. Jacob's parents, Patty and Jerry Wesseling, became advocates for missing and exploited children, and their efforts led to the passage of the Jacob Wesseling Crimes Against Children and Sexually Violent Offender Registration Act in 1994. The abduction of Jacob Wesseling shocked the nation and left the community devastated. The case remained unsolved for over 27 years until Danny Heinrich's confession and guilty plea brought some closure to the Wesseling family and the community. Jacob's legacy lives on through the advocacy of his parents and the Jacob Wesseling Resource Center, which works to prevent child exploitation and promote child safety. That's all for today, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video and hope to see you again in the next one.